These last few days have been really tough for folks who have faith in the goodness of humanity. And I don't know that it's going to get better, but I actually want to bring some words of hope and encouragement in this time because I don't think that there's ever been a better time for us to find community. And farming is where I tend to find community in a very tangible way because there's not really a way to do farming virtually. It all comes down to very tangible things that require us to get out of our heads and off of our devices. And I want to chat with you guys about 5 basic things that I think are bulwarks against coming instability in our society that may already be here. And I'm not a prophet of doom. I don't really stand to gain much by predicting what's coming, but I think that any fairly rational person can look around at the world and see that things are not heading in a good direction. And if you weren't already of that mindset, which I was kind of there long before COVID, so I think that this is probably not a news flash to most of you guys, but if this is a new thing that you're kind of starting to think about after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and everybody talking about civil war now in the news, then welcome to rational thinking society, because I think there's a lot of things that are not right. But farming, I think, is ironically kind of the answer to a lot of these things, going back in time in some ways and trying to recapture older, simpler, traditional, more practical ways of living that eliminates a lot of the guesswork and the questions that we have built into our modern life. But the first thing that I would say for everybody, if you're thinking about where to go from here and what to do as society unravels, is number one, find faith. Faith in humanity. A lot of people say, oh, I believe in the goodness of my fellow man. Well, how's that working out for you? The reality is that I'm a Christian, and I have to be honest in saying that that is an enormous part of who I am and why I do what I do. I don't preach and talk to everybody about that stuff, but at a time like this, there really isn't a lot else to hold onto, and so it's worth encouraging you guys to look out there and to take hold of something that is bigger and more eternal, and frankly, just to simplify things and to have principles. In my last video, I said that, when you have avatars and spokespeople being gunned down, that puts the burden of evidence and proof on us as individuals to stand for something, and finding faith is a very powerful and tangible way that we all can begin to take those steps in our own life, because the reality is our livelihood, the tangible things around us, is not all that there is to life, and we better hope that there's more. And it's our responsibility to be in pursuit of those things while we're here on Earth. And farming is an excellent way to connect with creation, because you are serving creation and serving your community. And the second part of that is to connect with and build community, because we need to have people around us. I am not a prepper. This is not a prepping channel. I'm barely a farmer, but I have been raising heritage hogs on pasture for the last 4 years or so. And as I've been doing this, I have met people and connected with people where we establish real relationships, where we can look each other in the eye, visit each other, and we spend time together and we interact. And this is something that has been drastically missing from our lives, because everything just happens through the phone, and it's important to have something to attach that to. And so in terms of prepping, I'm not the guy to tell you what kind of weapons to have and what your security system should look like, but what I can tell you is that one person who can be useful to a group of people and who has others around him or her who are able to do a variety of different tasks and communicate and collaborate and work together, as a group you stand to do much better when the framework and support of society begins to break down. The idea of the lone wolf who just goes out there and does everything by themselves and is kind of a jack of all trades is not realistic, at least not for me. In my situation with my family and my life, I can't do that. So I have decided to get good at raising pigs and providing meat and breeding piglets and providing breed stock and providing insight and education for other people who want to do that. And that's the resource that I have to give. There are other people that I trust with building things. There's other people that I trust with processing meat. There's other people that I trust with security and weaponry. And I also do a lot with communications because I am a ham radio operator. I was licensed when I was 13 years old. But having a diversity of skills that are spread out amongst a group makes a lot more sense and is a lot more achievable, especially if you're just starting to get into this headspace of saying, what's around the corner? How do I prepare for this? And I think along with that is the importance of reaching out and connecting with other people who are also searching for community, because everybody is kind of looking around and saying, okay, what comes next? What do we do? And I think having a vision for something that we're trying to do and trying to build is more important than just being angry and emotional, because certainly those feelings are there, very present, and everybody has to deal with those and react. But ultimately, this is a conflict that comes down to our ability to achieve, articulate, and execute a vision and to build something positive that will outlast. And I am not a big left versus right guy, although my own personal politics generally are somewhere between center and right. But when you see the, just for lack of a better term, just the blatant evil that has been unleashed in our society, this is not a movement that builds. This is not a movement that constrains, confines, or takes any time. This is a movement that simply thrives on chaos and destruction. And the only way to beat something like that is to build something better that is going to last longer and play that long game. And I think farming is something that is definitely oriented towards playing the long game, because you don't have the luxury of buying animals, buying property, and just flipping it and making money overnight. This is something where you have time invested. That's part of what we are doing here. Time is always built into the equation. And speaking a little bit about controlling our mindset and our vision as we articulate and hopefully achieve something a little bit better, or maybe a lot better, for coming generations to be thinking in that long view and to control our emotions. So the one thing that and I'm going to just articulate a Bible verse here, because there's a verse, I believe, in the Old Testament where God says, vengeance is mine. And there's a lot of us who are hungry for vengeance right now because we see what has been done and we know how that feels. And we know that that could be one of us in that same position for articulating our beliefs. And that doesn't feel great to know that there are people close to you in your social circles who wish you dead and wish others who share your beliefs dead, and would lump you into that category if given the opportunity. So the verse I want to share is Romans 12:19. It says, "Do not take revenge, brothers. Don't avenge yourselves, but leave room for God's wrath. Because it's written," he said, "vengeance is mine, and I," God speaking, "I will repay." And we are in a situation where we want to take control. And the most important thing to keep in mind here is to have faith so that we are able to say, you know what? My job is to be responsible for the little piece of land, the lives under my hand and my care. It's not to fight the battles and avenge the social injustices, assassinations, and everything else going on in the world. If I table my desire, my anger, my feelings, my emotions, if I put that on the shelf where it belongs, and I don't allow that to compromise my faith in God and my adherence to what He is asking me to do, I get out of the way and I allow Him to work. And I promise you, I have seen this work in my own life dramatically when I have been upset and where I feel like I have been violated and I want to get even. There have been a few instances where I have said, okay, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to let the man upstairs take care of handing out vengeance because he can do a much better job than I can. I promise you, there is nothing that we could do that could balance the scales in the same capacity that the Almighty can do. But the problem is, it's just like when I'm trying to move grain. I was just on the tractor here unloading feed bags because I just got feed for my pigs. And my littlest girl, she thinks it's an entertaining idea to go right in the blind spot in the corner behind the tractor as I'm trying to back up. And so I had to stop and, speak rather harshly to her and tell her that she needed to go in the house. She could watch out the window, but I don't want her running around the driveway, because the truth is, I can't do work that I need to do when she's putting her oar in the water. And if nothing else, the biggest benefit of having faith is recognizing the fact that you are not all that there is. You are very low on the totem pole, and there is a divine power that is at work in our lives, whether or not we like it, that is much more capable, much more powerful, and that we need to be reminded of that so that we can take our oar out of the water, which is the hardest thing to do, to be patient and to focus on the task at hand and to be faithful where we are placed instead of being distracted by everything else that's going poorly in our lives. And when my daughter is out of the way and she's stopping her attempt to try to help me move the feed bags, then I can get on the tractor and I can get stuff done. And when it comes to the plan that God has in this world, I don't know what that plan is. I'm not claiming to be a spiritual authority by any stretch, but I think it's important to be reminded that we are not in charge. We are working for the man who is in charge upstairs, and he knows what to do. But how many times has he been about to do something and we run in there and we're trying to mess around? And like, hey, look, see what we're doing. We have our oar in the water, and he's not able to get his job done at the time when he wants to because we're in the way screwing things up because we think we know better. And newsflash, we don't. And I'm saying this to myself as much as I am to all of you guys, because this news cycle and hearing all these things going on and on, it's an incessant buzz, and it's hard to turn it off and hard to get rid of it. And it's hard to imagine what comes next, what is around the corner. I don't know. But I can tell you that with faith in God and a focus on the plan that he has, because look, the alternative is not working out great, right? Who are we going to trust in? Are we going to trust in Trump's going to ride in and save us? Well, good luck with that, right? We have half of our population who does not live in the same universe that we do and would like to see us dead and our views completely demolished and annihilated. And that's putting it relatively benignly. So, the idea of solving this through politics is not going to happen. And it has taken us generations to get to this point because we got distracted, and our parents' generation got distracted by ease and prosperity. And now we're in a position where that ease and prosperity is much less close and tangible than it used to be. So we have the opportunity to begin the arduous journey of bringing things back to where it should be. And it's not going to happen overnight. And it's not going to happen because we have a great idea or a great video on YouTube. It's a long and difficult process of being comfortable with discomfort, because at the end of the day, we have to have faith in what is going on behind the scenes that we don't know and that we can't influence, and keep our focus where we actually have the opportunity to do good in our home, in our community, in the lives of the people around us who are willing to engage and to make a difference where it matters. And if you're thinking about a time to get involved in farming, I think this is a good time as any, because the prices of land aren't going down, but now is a good time for people to get away from their phone and go out and dig around and chase some hogs around the backyard, and get ready for the winter, and we'll see where all this goes. Now I got to get off the tractor and chase some pigs around, and my children, who I think are running around with the piglets. But if any of this resonates with you, I would love to have you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're raising hogs on pasture the old-fashioned way, and our mission is to make America farmers again. And that's how we're going to change the culture and correct it, is getting people in touch with the real and things that actually matter, more real stuff, touching grass, handling hogs. This is the way. See you guys in the next video.